Ready to take things to a new level? This is Level On Up with Sadia.
Welcome, Josh Setterfield. How you going?
I'm good. How are you?
I am just dandy, and I tell you what, you have released something that I more than just might like. It's the latest single. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so it's something you just might like it. It's a bit of a different story about how it got started for me. It's kind of kicked off during all the dreaded COVID times, and all us artists could do were like sit around and write songs. Well, not me. I got something called writer's block, and for the people who don't know what that is, you could have written "Living on a Prayer," "Don't Stop Believing," it doesn't matter. You can't write a good song no matter how hard you try. So after a couple of weeks of sitting on my butt eating junk food while the whole COVID thing happened, I thought, right, I got to force myself to do this. And I went into my studio and just kind of wrote the first thing that came to my mind. And I hated it. I hated it. And it was actually this song. And anyway, the next day it was stuck in my head. And we had 5 minutes extra at a show, and I slipped it in just to see how people would react to it for a bit of fun, and they went absolutely crazy for it. So thought I'd come home, fix it up, and I fixed up all the things I didn't like about it, and now we have this song, and it's one of my favorite songs to play live, and yeah, funny how that's a big full circle moment.
I'm glad that it did result in you liking it, because more often than not, it does happen with artists. They're not quite struck on it, and it turns out to be quite a successful hit.
Yeah, it does happen like that sometimes. And I feel like it's all about timing as well. And for us, like the whole point of the song was just that, and I think this is why it connected with people a lot as well, was that it just was a feel good party track. You know, there were so many songs out there lately that are just so serious, and which are great, but sometimes you just want to no brainer, have some drinks and listen to music, if you know what I mean.
I would agree with that. And I noticed the little, at the start, you've got the little cassette at the front of at the start of the music video. I mean, how did you even come across one? Because they're rare as...
Well, believe it or not, I'm a massive retro nerd, and that whole music video actually is shot in my house. So all the arcade machines and stuff, I actually own them in my garage. And I've got all that kind of stuff laying around, like old cassettes and records and stuff like that. I'm all about retro things. So it was actually very easy for me to come across that.
Can we expect a cassette release for the next EP or album then as a result?
I'm not going to lie, I have already thought about it, yes.
Because as much as music trends have changed, country music, I have noticed, is one of those industries that still releases it on albums and actual physical albums and have great results. Is that something that you want to continue to do?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, it comes from I think people like collecting things, and I'm the same way. Like if one of my favorite artists releases something, I want to go out and I want a physical copy, you know. And I feel like with the turn of times as well, I feel like it's starting to come back a little. Obviously, we've seen vinyl have like a huge resurgence and stuff like that. And I think people just want something that when you pay for it, you get it instead of just having access to something.
Speaking of collecting things, did I notice a Pokemon tattoo?
Oh yeah, I'm a big nerd. I've got Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Sonic the Hedgehog. I've even got the Little Mermaid tattooed on my arm. I'm a massive nerd.
Stories behind all of them, or?
Kind of, you know what? People always ask me that, and they also always ask me stuff like, "Oh, will I regret them?" And I don't think so. Like, it's, you know, it all tells not so much a story, but a part of something that's kind of shaped who I am and part of like my life growing up and stuff like that. And I get things tattooed that I really like and enjoy, you know. And no, I think I don't not that. Yes, there's a story, but the story is just me growing up, you know.
Aren't we all still to this day? Yeah. We know, just kids trapped in adult bodies.
Pretty much.
But, I mean, you've been doing a lot of shows, a lot of music festivals. Have you been able to catch them all, those Pokemon, along the way?
No, I actually stopped playing that Pokemon Go app, so I got too busy.
You had the Kind of World touring last year. How did that all go?
Absolutely incredible. You know, it's always been a bucket list item for me. I've always wanted to travel, but I've always kind of given myself a goal that I want to travel by music taking me to places. And I nearly gave up and I nearly traveled, but no, it was amazing. We hit Australia, UK, Canada, and the United States for the first time ever. So I hadn't been to, I'd been to the States before, obviously, but I hadn't been to Canada and the UK. So to go over there to play music was just absolutely incredible. Life-changing experience going to stuff like the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. So like I'm a big tourist. So when we go and play shows somewhere, I'm like, right, I want days booked off for touristy stuff, and I want to go around with like, you can imagine me with like high pants and a camera and like I'm not like that, but that's how I feel like I'm inside.
I've definitely got a bit of a thought process happening there, and it's quite comedic. Well, not a lot of artists do take the time out because they're usually so booked and it's quite a tight schedule.
It does happen, you know. I know even a bunch of stuff here in Australia, like if we'll go tour somewhere, sometimes it's just an overnight thing, you know. It's like get in the car, go out there. Or like obviously we got to fly in and stuff like that, and it's kind of straight back to the next show. So every chance we get, I'm up and about with the whole exploring thing because I love it. I'm a big history fan and everything like that. So I just love being around it and part of like everything. Yeah.
And you've got some shows coming up at the end of May, start of June, which is quite exciting. And I noticed a common friend, Casey Barnes, is going to be part of a couple of them.
Yeah, so we're jumping on two of his. We thought it made sense, you know. We just done Brisbane earlier this year, and Casey kind of hit us up and said, "Hey, look, we're doing an album release show. Do you want to be part of it?" And I'm like, "Of course I do. I absolutely love that man. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world." So we're jumping on with him for Brisbane and the Gold Coast. We've got Charters Towers up north, and then we've just announced Sydney and Melbourne as well for my headline shows. So it's great. I'm really looking forward to this run of shows. Really.
Are you going to feature on his new album?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, if he hits me up, I'll do it. But maybe everyone should convince him to let that happen.
I mean, he puts you through enough as it is, doesn't he? That's the least you can do.
I give it back to him as well, just as much. So.
Do you get much of a chance to hang out? Because I noticed, like on your socials, that you can see the pair of you having a good laugh with each other. But do you get a chance to actually get into the studio or have a writing session, or I'd assume mentorship to some degree as well?
Well, not so much the studio stuff, but I mean, I've toured with him a couple of times now, and it's always been a really great thing. You know, I've toured with a bunch of artists, and don't get me wrong, everyone has been great, but he is a really welcoming and friendly guy, and if anyone ever wants to go up and meet him, he'd be more than happy to say hello to you. But yeah, no, I back him 1,000%. You know, it's we've done a couple of tours together now, like I said, and there's definitely a friendship there, you know, and it's great. It's great to have that with artists, especially someone like Casey. Like I've obviously asked him for advice and stuff before, and he's a good man. He is. He really is.
Is there many others that you feel you can go to in the industry? Because I feel like Australian country music in particular is quite a tight-knit family.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Most of the artists here are great. I've come across obviously a couple I don't really get along with, but that's just a personal preference. You know, it's the majority of the people that I've played shows with are absolutely incredible people. You know, you got like Shannon Knoll, Wolf Brothers. There's heaps of them. You know, Vibe Creek Band. I'm a big like kind of community person as well, so I like that. Even though I kind of sit on the outside a little bit because I'm like a rocky country guy, but I think the people in this scene are absolutely amazing, and it's a pretty good place to be. It is.
Is country music something you grew up with and knew you wanted to go with from the start, or is it something that it just came on by as time went on?
Kind of. I grew up with country, obviously. My whole family listened to it, and obviously I was around it my whole life. But when I was a teenager, I actually rebelled and went punk. So I actually was in a punk band for about 10 years, and we did some amazing things. We played with The Offspring and one of my favorite bands, Simple Plan, and stuff like that. And kind of was doing really well. We were like selling out shows around Australia, and it kind of came to an end. And when it did, and I was like, man, what am I going to do? Am I going to like keep going down this route and be like a male Avril Lavigne, you know, like a solo artist or something? I was like, no. I was like head deep again in country music when the whole Florida Georgia Line thing came around, and I fell in love with it all over again. So the hardest decision I've ever made, switching genres to country, but best decision I ever made. Like if I had known how this would be going back then, there would not be any word of doubt in my head. So
no Pretty Fly for a white guy sneaking into the sets at CMC.
Well, you know what? We have played a bit of Blink-182 on tour every now and then, so people can. We have a bit of a heavy moment during the set where I'll let out a big scream and stuff like that. But it's kind of, people say that they hear the punk in my country, and I'm just like, I don't. But you know what? If that sets me apart, then I'm totally okay with it.
And nothing wrong with it. I mean, you talk about the crossovers. There's so much in this day and age. You can almost get away with almost anything you want. You look at Beyonce; she's doing a country or just done a country album herself.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, people. It's a very controversial topic, but I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel country is probably the widest genre for that in the world at the moment, and I welcome it with open arms because I love the whole experimental side of music and, trying different things and not sticking to the normal. I know you got Hardy over in the States who's doing like a really heavy kind of country thing with like breakdowns and screaming. And then you've got like, there's artists doing like hip hop country and, it's all over the place. And of course, something people need to understand is that traditional sound isn't going to go away. I think people are scared that it's just going to turn into something else, but I'm all about it. Like I know some of my favorite artists over in the States, they're trying new stuff. And even here in Australia, you start to see it change just a little bit. I know myself, like obviously going a little bit punkier and heavier with my country stuff, which is great. But I mean, it all comes down to where it's from, and people are scared that that's going to go away. And I know that nobody wants that to ever go away.
And I think the thing we forget is it's introducing country music to whole new generations as well.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
they're able to sift through and find some other artists that they like as a result. What's on your playlist at the moment?
Like, what am I listening to?
Yeah.
But this could be an hour-long conversation. No, my playlist is very all over the place. So I listen to a lot of country. I do. But I listen to a lot of heavy stuff, and I like talking stuff that people would think is inaudible, like like so, that kind of stuff. I go to the gym a lot, and I just lots of really heavy stuff. But I come from that kind of thing as well. But no, country artists at the moment, I'm really listening to one of my favorite bands out of the States, and they're actually really good guys. They're named Lakeview, and they're kind of like a heavier kind of country as well. But it's not just that kind of thing I'm into. I'm into the really pop stuff as well, and I've been listening to a lot of classics like Joe Diffie and stuff lately as well. So it's it's a big conversation. That's a very open-ended question for someone like me. Some people are like, man, I listen to Keith Urban and Luke Combs, and that's it. I listen to everything. So yeah.
Do you think the artists you listen to influence your songwriting?
Oh, totally. It's since listening to a lot of Hardy, obviously, and Morgan Wallen over the years, and Hardy writes a lot of his songs. I take a lot of songwriting kind of influence from Hardy. He's probably my favorite writer that I've ever heard of. And he just kind of, does it in a way that does it exactly how I like it, So it's great. But I never copy someone. So that's my biggest thing is you're an artist and you should always be doing things your own way. So I will never look at something and go, I'm going to do exactly that. I've kind of like just take a little bit of influence on what I do as well. Mm.
Well, it's a very impressionable industry. How do you maintain your authenticity? Because it can be quite hard. Like you've got you as the performer and then you've got your personal life. How do you make that all happen?
I kind of just let it happen, with the authenticity thing is it's that big thing. And I know you can tell a lot of the time when someone's not being authentic as an artist. So I just be myself, if people like it, cool. If they don't, get out. Like pretty much. I'm just me,
And in this day and age, obviously being more vulnerable to your fans has helped relate, I guess, on a whole different level as well, because obviously you say, I struggle at this, so I'm not, handling that. It gives a whole different layer to your music as well.
Yeah, and I feel like just being real is kind of the best way to be, Like I said before, I'm only me, and I just there's no point in trying to be someone I'm not. Back in the day, in the punk days, I used to try to be not something I wasn't, but I used to just try to be what people liked, And I feel like nowadays I've settled into who I am, and I'm happy with who I am and the way that I'm going. And I work my butt off, as does my manager Dana. So it's kind of a thing. I'm really proud of everything that we've done, as a team and myself as well. So I just want to be me. And like I said, if people don't like it, hit the road. I said putting it nicely.
You weren't doing it for them anyway.
Exactly. No, well, you know what? I kind of am, because the reason I like being kind of just real and stuff like that is I want people to know that it's not a big fake thing, like I want, and the, like you said, how I said I was struggling. I posted that a couple of days ago and a couple of weeks ago as well. And I think people want to know that like artists they listen to are real people, you know, because there's a lot of fake stuff out there. And what's the point of that, you know?
And I think what's very admirable about you sharing that is mental health is a big thing. I think that was bigger than the pandemic itself from a personal perspective. But especially with men, it's not easy to be that vulnerable. So I think people like yourself breaking that barrier helped make it easier for others.
And you know what? I think if more people do it as well, it'll become not such a foreign thing. You know, that's one of the biggest things is people like, especially, you know, not even just men. Like some people think that they're too tough that they can't speak out. And it's not, I'm not even talking about like, oh, you should come out and tell everyone your problems type thing. Like it's up to you whether you want to do that. I just want people to feel like it's a normal thing. I think that's what it's all about is if you want to talk, you can, you don't have to, but you know, it's what kind of world would we live in if people weren't allowed to be upset? That's just such a strange thing to me.
And the good thing is you're obviously harnessing it for the positive. And, you know, congratulations on that, because that's another step in itself too, because it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another to make the moves that you need to in order to take those steps forward.
I completely agree. And if you know, if me being able to talk about it can like give someone else the courage to talk about it themselves, then I mean, I've done my job. So, yeah.
Now, the new single, is it off a new EP, new album? I don't think we covered that.
We didn't, but yeah, it is. I haven't told anyone that yet, but I'll tell you first. Yeah, it is part of a new EP that's coming. So we just released Rise last year, which was a collection of all the first songs. And the second one, I can't tell you what it's called, but you might be able to figure it out. It's linked. So if anyone puts two and two together, there's a couple words that could go with the other one, and that's what it will be called. But yeah, it is part of an EP that is coming. And you know what? Some of the songs that we've got to release this year are the proudest I've ever been of music that we've worked on. So a lot of co-writes and stuff like that, a lot of songs I've just written myself, and looking forward to this year a lot because I've got a lot of stuff that I want people to hear. So yeah, lots of stuff coming.
Well, naturally, you can't give too much away, but so I won't push the buttons too hard. But is it something you were able to record and produce here in Australia, or did you have to go over to the States?
Well, thanks to technology, my whole team is actually across the world. So I record it here in my studio, which I'm actually currently sitting in right now. I record it here, and then the guy who records it's out of Canada. So he kind of remotely comes in via my computer and records me in this room like I'm standing in the next room. It's absolutely crazy the way that technology's kind of come about with this. But then we send it to Nashville to be finished off. So really it's an Australia, a Canadian, and the United States like compilation of work when my stuff comes out. But I kind of like that, you know, it's a bit of flavor from everywhere, and maybe that's why people think it's a bit different.
And how many songs did you write before you got down to the actual final mix? Because more often than not, there's, you know, 2 to 3 times more than what actually end up on there.
Oh, I could probably release 4 albums of songs that I've got in the back. So it's hard to kind of choose, you know, and narrow it down. But last EP I think was 6 songs, and this one's going to be 6 as well. So when it's not a full album, you know, it's really hard to go right. These songs are going to be on there, but it just means that we've got even more songs coming. So I got songs coming out my ears.
And hopefully there might just be something you just might like on that EP too.
Yes. I thought you were doing a pun then, and you went with just doing that. And I was going to be like, but no, yeah. Something you just might like will definitely be on the next release for sure.
But it was a pun. It was a two-edged sword there. So
I got excited.
Well, it's always good when an artist gets excited about their music, because it just means good things are to come. Yep. If people want to find out more about your upcoming shows, tour /EP, where do they go? You
know what? I usually list all of the social media, but I'm just going to say the easiest way is joshsetterfield.com, because there's a link to absolutely everything they need to find in that one spot.
And you can't go wrong. Thank you so much for having a chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.